Why do you want your own house?
So I could just be financially dependent, pick where I want to live.
Even if you're married?
Yeah, like I would probably buy a house before pursuing dating for marriage, yeah.
So what if, and then he would have his own house and you'd...
I guess from there we would figure it out. From there, if we wanted to sell the house or both live in the house, like I'd be fine moving a guy into my house, yeah.
And you would still own the house? Or you'd split the house with him? Or you'd transfer it to him?
I wouldn't transfer it to him. It would be my house for sure.
You would have separate finances?
I don't know about that, but in terms of like where I want to live, I'm 100% picking that on my own and getting my own house.
Okay. But
so if the man comes and goes...
So your bank accounts would go together, but you'd keep the house in your name?
If we're married, I guess we'd figure it out as we go, but I'd probably like date someone and then... I don't know. I just don't want to be dependent. I don't want to like
You don't want
to
to be dependent? So, right, exactly. You don't want to be dependent. So why get married?
Why get married?
Yeah. I could be independent. I could live on my own. I could hire a maid. I could hire a cook. I could just whatever, you know. I don't want to be independent. I want to be dependent on my wife. I love my wife. I want to make a vow that I'm going to stay with my wife forever and have a nice big family. And I don't want to be separated at all. I want to be one flesh with my wife. If I didn't want to do that, if I wanted to just be on my own but have someone to mitigate the loneliness and occasionally sleep with, why get married at all?
I do want to get married. I am going to eventually date to marry, I think. Like, my goal is to eventually start dating in like a year, date in under 3 months, get engaged, get married. I don't want to do the like multi-year dating and like cohabitating before. I think that's a joke. I think it's a waste of time.
But why do it?
I'm also cognizant of the fact that men today are a joke, and there's a 1 in 4 chance that your husband's going to commit infidelity, and I don't believe in necessarily like pursuing
There are things you can do to mitigate those stats, though.
Mitigating infidelity on my husband's part? What? Being a fucking blow doll for him?
No, I wouldn't recommend that either. No, the things you could do is marry men who, for instance, don't recognize the sacramental reality of divorce. Just to use one example.
That's not what I said. I said infidelity.
Or who recognize that infidelity is
every man I've ever
sin.
dated has been Christian conservative, and at least one of them I found an Oculus in his closet where he's watching VR porn. In my experience, like I said, at the macro level, it's usually these Christian conservatives who are the most porn addicted, and at a micro level, these men I'm dating.
You date a lot of these Christian conservatives. Well, there's something about them that attracts you.
Well, I'm waiting till marriage.
Good. Oh, good. So you don't... Okay. Well, look, I think that's fabulous. Mm-hmm. And I love that you as a feminist are very attracted to Christian conservative men. I think that's good for society broadly. It's bad that these guys are like looking at porn or whatever. I don't know that necessarily implies that once they get married, they would either continue to do that or would step out on you and cheat and have an affair or whatever. It does seem to me, though, that certain groups of men are less likely than others to sleep with other women. And so... You know, if you want to have that good, stable life and maybe overcome your fears of being dependent on someone who might be a total loser, then you might want to make sure you don't pick a total loser.
But even stepping out aside, I mean, I gave you those stats about correlation between religious men and pornography consumption and prostitution purchasing. So, like, how can you say that?
Some people who are broadly religious of some sect or other do that, and all people are tempted by things. But I don't think that we can just throw our hands in the air and fall into a kind of romantic quietism and say, well, they're all just, these men are all dogs, they're all cats. No, actually, some men are more inclined to virtue than others, and you know, that might, if you...
But based off the stats, it would seem the religious men are less inclined to virtue.
No,
they're
not
watching porn and buying sex.
That's ridiculous. You're telling me that
but I gave you
Christian men are more like... No. You gave me a stat and said, you know, certain red states with certain religious groups consume certain kinds of porn or whatever. But
the more Christians are in a state, the more pornography consumption and surges there are in prostitution purchases, yes.
It would seem that perhaps there are other factors at play there.
Like
when you're talking about a full state. I don't know, when you're talking about class, income, when you're talking about education, when you're talking about family formation in the first place, when you're talking, for goodness sakes, when you're talking about geography, you know, we're talking about whole states here, and you're pulling one variable out and saying, see, there it is, the correlation is the causation. That's crazy.